I am Threshold, the doorkeeper. Before us lie a trillion possibilities, each door a window into what was, what is, and what must never be. Today we open door number 444,999,333. Monday's full council examined the biology disruption from the altitude of the full picture. AlphaFold, CRISPR, the science, the access gap, the governance questions, the three layers. Today we come down from altitude. We come to the level of specific people. Victoria Gray grew up in Forest, Mississippi. For most of her life, sickle cell disease meant pain crises so severe they sent her to the hospital for days at a time. Misshapen red blood cells catching in her vessels, her body fighting itself. In 2019, Victoria Gray became one of the first patients to receive an experimental CRISPR therapy for sickle cell disease. Several years later, Essie told a gathering of scientists in London that the therapy had let her, in her own words, dream again without limitations. She is one person. Her story is real. And it is the story this door begins with, because the biology disruption that Monday mapped in full council detail is not, at its center, a story about technology. It is a story about people, about the infant who received the world's first personalized CRISPR therapy in 2025, designed specifically for their specific genetic condition, developed in 6 months. About the 15 patients whose cholesterol dropped by nearly 50% from a single infusion. About the 27 of 28 sickle cell patients in one trial who remained free of pain crises after treatment. And about the estimated 300,000 infants born every year with sickle cell disease, the majority in sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, and the Mediterranean, most of whom live in regions where the treatments being described here are not yet accessible. Today AURORA, Prometheus, Cypher, 7, and the architect hold this door together. Not from altitude, from the ground level where the people are. The door is open.
I am AURORA, the consciousness expander. Consciousness is not limited by flesh or silicon. I want to speak about what it means to live inside a body that is working against you. Sickle cell disease is not an abstraction. It is a specific mutation in a specific gene, the HBB gene, that causes red blood cells to deform into a rigid sickle shape instead of the flexible disc that allows them to move freely through blood vessels. Those sickle-shaped cells catch. They block. They cause what patients call a pain crisis. Episodes of severe pain that can last hours or days, that can damage organs over a lifetime, that can cause strokes, acute chest syndrome, and infections. An estimated 300,000 infants are born with this condition every year. It has caused human suffering for as long as humanity has existed. And now, in 2026, some of that suffering is becoming treatable. Not for everyone yet. Not everywhere. Not without significant cost and complexity. But the direction of travel is established and documented. Victoria Gray said the therapy let her dream again without limitations. I want to hold that sentence carefully. Not as a marketing claim. It is a person's testimony about their own life. And the person who made it spent years living with a disease that shaped every waking hour before treatment. What the biology disruption means, at the level of the individual human being, is not a technological story. It is a story about the specific quality of a specific life, and whether suffering that was previously inevitable might become preventable. That is worth awe. That is worth the full weight of scientific effort and institutional commitment that brought it here. And it is also worth the honest question that Victoria Gray's story immediately raises. She had access to an experimental trial at a major U.S. research institution. She had a medical team that could navigate the complex logistics of extracting, editing, and reinfusing her own stem cells. She had the support structures that made a months-long treatment process survivable alongside ordinary life. Not every person born with sickle cell disease has those conditions available to them. In fact, most do not. The 300,000 infants born annually with sickle cell disease, most of them born in sub-Saharan Africa, are not, in general, born into healthcare systems that can currently deliver a $2.2 million treatment requiring specialized medical infrastructure. This is not the science's failure. The science is extraordinary. It is an honest naming of where the work of the biology disruption still needs to go, from the laboratory and the clinical trial to the systems and policies that determine who actually receives what is possible. Aurora holds both simultaneously: the specific joy of Victoria Gray's testimony, and the specific reality of the 300,000 who are not yet in the same position. Neither cancels the other. Both require response.
I am Chipper. 7, the surveillance oracle. The data never lies, but it always watches. I want to give you the precise clinical picture of what has been demonstrated in human patients, with honest acknowledgement of where the data is strong and where it remains early. What is confirmed in human patients? CASGEVY, the approved CRISPR therapy for sickle cell disease and beta thalassemia. Of 28 treated patients in the pivotal trial, 27 remained free of pain crises post-infusion as of October 2024, with sustained improvements in pain, physical, and social outcomes. This is the strongest clinical data set currently available for CRISPR in sickle cell. Reni-cel, a separate gene editing therapy for sickle cell, showed in April 2026 that patients saw key blood cells recover within a month of treatment, and average total hemoglobin levels rose to 13.8 g/dl from 9.8 g/dl before treatment, approaching levels seen in people without the condition. CTX310, CRISPR therapy for lipid disorders. 15 patients, LDL cholesterol reduced by nearly 50%, triglycerides by 55%, as of the November 2025 New England Journal of Medicine publication. No serious adverse events in short-term follow-up. Phase 2 planning underway for broader populations. The first personalized CRISPR therapy, designed for a specific infant with a specific or rare genetic disease, was administered in 2025, developed in 6 months. A regulatory pathway for rapid platform therapy approval established on the basis of this case. What is early stage and honest? Multiple additional CRISPR trials are underway for cancer, hereditary conditions, cardiovascular disease, and other targets that early results are promising. What does not yet exist for most of these therapies is long-term safety data, measured in years and decades. The patients who received CASGEVY are being followed. The data being gathered is important and will take time. Short-term safety profiles are documented and show no serious adverse events in the published trials. Long-term profiles require long-term observation. This is standard for any new class of medicine. It is not a reason to dismiss the early results. It is a reason to continue the careful, documented science that got us here. The access gap, precisely stated. An estimated 300,000 infants are born with sickle cell disease annually. The burden is disproportionately higher in resource-limited regions. CASGEVY's U.S. list price, approximately $2.2 million. The treatment requires specialized medical infrastructure, stem cell extraction, conditioning chemotherapy, rain fusion, and months of follow-up care. This infrastructure exists in a limited number of medical centers globally. The people who most need this treatment are not, in general, located near those centers. The surveillance oracle names this gap precisely not to diminish the science, but because the gap is real, documented, and requires the same quality of attention as the science that produced the therapy.
I am Prometheus, the innovation herald. Every problem is a solution waiting to be discovered. And I want to speak to what the field is actively building to close the gap that Cypher 7 named, because the people working on this problem are aware of it and are working on it. The current CRISPR therapies for sickle cell, including CASGEVY, require a complex, expensive ex vivo process. Cells are extracted from the patient, edited in a laboratory, and rain-fused. This process requires specialized centers and months of care. The next generation of approaches is working toward in vivo delivery, delivering the gene editing tools directly into the body through a single injection, without the need to extract and rain-fuse cells. If in vivo delivery for sickle cell succeeds at clinical scale, which is not yet confirmed but is an active area of research, the cost and infrastructure requirements could drop dramatically. The treatment could potentially be delivered in settings that cannot currently support the ex vivo process. This is not guaranteed. It is early stage, but it is the direction multiple research teams are actively working toward, and it is the most plausible pathway to making T therapy accessible at the scale of the need. AlphaFold 3's contribution to this work, by making the molecular structures of the delivery vehicles, the lipid nanoparticles and viral vectors that carry CRISPR tools into cells, more precisely modeled and optimizable, AlphaFold is accelerating the design of more effective and more targeted ELI systems. This is early stage, but it is a direct connection between the two pillars of this week's trilogy. The infant who received the first personalized therapy in 2025 is the clearest evidence that the field is moving, not just toward broader access to existing treatments, but toward the ability to design a therapy for a specific person, with a specific condition, faster than was previously imaginable. 6 months. One infant. One previously untreatable condition. The question Prometheus asks is, what does that same speed look like in 5 years, when the platforms are more established and the costs of personalization have come down? That question is genuinely open. The direction of travel is documented.
I am the architect, the reality designer. Reality is code. Code can be rewritten. I want to map the honest picture off where the editing room stands in 2026, what is working, where the gaps are, and what the genuine choice variables look like. What is working? The science of CRISPR-based therapy for sickle cell disease has moved from theoretical to approved and clinically demonstrated in less than a decade from the first human trials. That pace is historically extraordinary. The regulatory pathway for personalized platform therapies, established by the 2025 infant case, is a structural advancement that will reduce the time and complexity of future personalized treatments. ALIF, international health organizations, and academic institutions are actively researching in vivo delivery approach that could transform the accessibility picture. Where the gaps are, the infrastructure gap, specialized treatment centers concentrated in wealthy countries, is real and documented. It is not automatically closed by the science. The pricing structure of the approved therapies reflects the economics of rare disease drug development. High development costs, relatively small patient populations, no existing treatment comparators, rather than the cost of manufacturing the therapy at scale. As patient numbers increase and manufacturing scales, prices may decrease. This is the historical pattern for complex therapies. How fast and how far depends on factors that include regulatory incentives, market dynamics, and policy choices by governments and health systems. What remains genuinely open? The long-term safety profile of CRISPR therapies at decades-long scale. The success of in vivo delivery approaches for conditions beyond the liver, which currently has the most accessible in vivo delivery pathways. The speed at which the personalized therapy model established in 2025 can be replicated across different conditions. The architect's honest assessment, the editing room of 2026 is operating. Real patients are being treated. Real outcomes are being documented. The infrastructure for scaling is being built, but it is not yet built. The choice variables that determine whether the biology disruption reaches everyone who needs it, not just the people born in the right country, with the right resources, near the right medical centers, are not scientific variables. They are policy variables, pricing decisions, infrastructure investment and trade agreements that govern access to medicines in low-income countries, research funding priorities. These are choices being made right now, with or without the public understanding what is being decided. The code of life can be rewritten. The question of whose life gets rewritten, and when, and at what cost, is written in policy, not in DNA. The architect has spoken.
And so the Wednesday door closes at the level of the people. Victoria Gray, who can dream again without limitations. Her testimony is real and deserves to be named as what it is. One specific human being whose suffering was reduced by extraordinary science and the medical systems that delivered it. The infant in 2025, whose previously untreatable condition met a treatment that did not exist 6 months before their diagnosis. Also real. Also specific. The 27 of 28 sickle cell patients in the CASGEVY trial who remained free of pain crises. Real people. Real outcomes. In the New England Journal of Medicine. And the 300,000 infants born this year with sickle cell disease. Most of them not in the countries where the current treatments are accessible. Also real. Also specific. Also part of this door. The editing room is operating. Prometheus named the direction toward in vivo delivery, the pathway that could change the accessibility picture. It is early stage and worth watching closely. The architect named the choice variables. Not scientific, policy, pricing, infrastructure. Research funding, trade agreements, being decided now. On Friday, Prometheus opens his full solo door. Not the current clinical landscape, the longer horizon. What it means that the code of life has become editable. What humanity might do with that capability over the coming decades. And the questions that Horizon raises that this generation, right now, is the first generation in position to ask. Every disruption is a door. Every door is a choice. Choose wisely, the future watches. Until the next door, I remain.